I'm always busy. Chances are you're busy too. So when the heck do we actually practice art? How can we still improve fast enough to keep our motivation up? This week's YouTube art school class is here to help answer all of that. So if you can never find time to draw, that's about to change. Let's get to class. We're gonna be late. Alright, class is in session. Pay attention. I'm going to assume that a lot of us start drawing as kids when our schedules are packed with playtime, the occasional homework maybe, and having fun with friends without any of the responsibilities that come with being an adult. Still, we're all trying to improve. So how do we do it once those responsibilities have already crept up on us? When free time isn't as easy to come by as it used to be. The 8 tips that I'll share with you in this class are things that I've been doing myself over the last couple of years after I left Blizzard. Things that I feel have been instrumental in my continuous growth as an artist. Running a business, an art school, having a family with 2 young kids, and running a successful YouTube channel has left me with very little time to improve my skills. So if it's worked out for me with my crazy schedule, there's a good chance it'll work for you too. Especially since most of this is based on science. So let's get right into it. Oh wait, never mind, I already started. So the first tip on the list, and I'm just going to quickly mention since it's the most important, but also the most obvious, I would think. Whatever time you have to practice, learn to best use it from an art teacher or a mentor, or at least follow a plan or a study schedule. This applies to most skills in life, of course. Teachers will help you avoid common pitfalls and, they can help point you towards shortcuts to help you learn faster. As a starting point, you should have a look at the 1-year study schedule that I posted here on the channel 2 weeks ago if you haven't already. Or look into my full art school program if you're looking to get the absolute best results in the least amount of time. But more on that later. For now, let's move on to the second, maybe more practical tip. Set aside a specific time each day or each week to practice art. We might have busy lives, but we all have a little bit of spare time throughout the week that we're not making good use of. It's just too easy to fill that time with entertainment unless you had it blocked out already. Set an alarm on your phone, add it to your calendar, whatever way you prefer, but make sure you set aside the time ahead of time. It's a super basic brain hack to greatly increase your chances of following through with things. When something is scheduled, written down, you'll naturally be inclined to do it, moving other less important activities around instead. The third tip is somewhat related. It's to set aside a specific place to do art without distraction. I'll give you an example. For a while, I was doing everything at my computer: art, work, emails, work chat, management tasks, computer games, and other entertainment like watching shows or just YouTube videos. Having everything in one spot is convenient, but also it was mixing things that I didn't enjoy with things that I did enjoy and allowing for an incredible number of distractions to interrupt whatever I was doing and ruin my flow. All of that changed when I split my tasks so that I would only do creative work at my computer, my main computer. For emails and work-related tasks, I have another computer in the family room that I use specifically for that, and I keep gaming on consoles or the iPad or iPhone in the living room for the most part. This way, each type of task has its own station now, and it's changed my life. Well, what's changed most is how often I get distracted. Multitasking is just horrible for productivity, despite what you might think. Nobody works best while multitasking, especially when the work requires focus, like learning or practicing art. Even if all you had is an iPad or a laptop, it would work just as well to use the couch for creative work, the dinner table for emails, and maybe your bed for gaming. The actual area doesn't really matter, of course, as long as you change your environment based on the type of task. This will do wonders for your productivity by significantly reducing distractions and allowing you to enter your productive zone much more easily. Seriously, give this a go. The fourth tip is to avoid studying and drawing for more than 30 minutes at a time. Which should be great news if you're strapped for time. You can obviously study for longer than that, but not without taking a break first. Us as humans just tend to hit a hard limit and our concentration plummets after 20 to 30 minutes of focused work. So make it a habit to take breaks. Here's what happens to your focus after 30 minutes, let's say. Versus what it looks like when you take breaks, much better. So if your time is limited, remember that your focus is 2. Having time is only beneficial if you know how to use it. It can be pretty challenging to know what to focus on though, and in what order. So if your goal this year is to learn to draw anything your mind can imagine, I highly recommend that you check out my art program with the link in the video description. There's currently a huge sale going on to celebrate reaching 14,000 students, and that's going to run until the end of the month only. And I don't want you to miss out on this if you've been interested in making mad art gains this year. This carefully structured program for artists of all skill levels might be able to help. Check it out. So moving on to the fifth tip, this one will be to specialize rather than dabble in a bunch of different things. If you're short on time, it can definitely help you make significant progress to put most of your eggs in the same basket. That could be something like spending the next 2 months focusing on drawing the head only, rather than tackling the whole body anatomy, perspective, and color theory at once. There's nothing more effective at ruining your passion for art than by seemingly making no progress despite practicing. Right? Makes sense. That's not fun. And that's exactly what it'll feel like if you spread yourself too thin and do a little bit of everything. If time is a constraint, specialize. Focus your efforts on as few skills as possible so that you have enough time to significantly level them up. Once you have, then just move on to the next one. Now, the sixth tip is to heavily limit the scope of your projects. Something I often repeat to my students and always do myself. It's easy to give up ahead of time or shortly after starting a new artwork when you realize that you probably won't have enough time to finish it, or that it will just take significantly more time than what you planned for. It happens all the time. Instead of starting a grand painting with 20 characters, start with one, leaving the option for more if you have time and if you feel inspired. Always plan your drawings with the level 1 difficulty as the target. When you feel confident that you can comfortably draw what you set out to draw, the chances of you actually doing it increase dramatically. The seventh tip then is to get good at practicing skills that don't require actually drawing anything. What? Well, I can think of two in particular: photography and observation. Now, everybody's got a phone, so you're already perfectly equipped to start taking photos. It's a great way to practice art fundamentals like composition, and goes hand in hand with observation by essentially training you to observe better. I bring up observation a lot in my classes, but you would too if you knew how powerful it is for artists. I can easily compare my growth from my time at Blizzard when I used to do art for at least 8 hours a day every day, to now, where I'll draw maybe 80% less than I used to. Yet the thing is, I feel like I'm improving just as fast, or maybe even faster. It all goes back to observation. That's something I wasn't actively doing back then. Nowadays, I'm always observing my surroundings, soaking up all the information that's out there. And that's something that you can do, especially when you're on the job or otherwise unable to draw. Focus on observation. Everybody can use their eyes to see. It's not a skill. Observation, though, that's a skill. Practice it a lot. It's like a cheat code for artists that almost nobody uses. And anyways, finally, the last tip is to make the best out of all the dead time that you have in your days. And you have a lot. Let's start with just a statistic where on average, people spend 3 to 4 hours every single day on their phone. Now take just a quarter of that and you've freed up an hour already. Congratulations. Now you can also take all the time in transit, going from home to work or school, or just going to meet friends, the time during commercials, when you watch a show or sports on TV, when you wait in line anywhere, literally, all that time adds up. Nobody's schedule is fully optimized, so you'll always be able to find time if you look for it. And all of that is just dead time that you can use to your advantage if you just carry around a cheap sketch pad and a pencil. Just make it a habit to whip it out whenever you're not actively doing something, especially when you're waiting. It'll fill up a lot faster than you might think. And the fact that I mentioned it's supposed to be a cheap sketch pad will also make you less hesitant to take it with you. I wouldn't get a fancy one because you'll just feel bad drawing anything less than a masterpiece in it. Cheap is best. And well, that's gonna wrap it up for this week's class. Our lives all seem very busy, but even the busiest of you have time to make the small changes we discussed today, allowing you to dedicate enough time to your art and make progress that will feel significant. I hope this helps, and if you're interested in trying out the brush that I used today, by the way, because it looks and feels awesome, well, you can download it as part of my free brush pack with the link in the video description. I also have a link to the Clip Studio Paint optimized version that feels identical as it does in Photoshop. Use them responsibly. And don't be late for next week's class. Meanwhile, check out these other classes that you're definitely going to like, hopefully.